Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. The lesson that we are going to do today, children, is a lesson in Scholarship English for Standard 8th. And as we all know, we are doing the grammar part now, isn't it? So what do you remember about what we have done? We have been doing parts of speech, then we talked about tenses, and in this particular lesson, we will be talking about modal auxiliaries. Now, all this is part of your language study part. So this lesson is going to be about lesson number 3.3 modal auxiliaries. So let us first try and understand what the meaning of modal auxiliaries is. Then we will do a lot of examples. We will take a look at a number of examples so that the idea becomes clear to you. And then we will move on and try and solve certain questions based on the questions which are going to come in the exam. Okay, so come on, let's start with this lesson 3.3 modal auxiliaries. But before we go to the lesson, let me once again remind you that since this is a scholarship lesson, let us try to make it as interactive as possible. So how are we going to do that? You will please pause the video when you see the question along with the options, and then you will try and guess the answer yourself, and you will then play and see what the answer that I have given is. Okay, so that way we will make this lesson more interesting for you. So come on, let's start with understanding what are modal auxiliaries or modal auxiliary verbs. Okay, so in the beginning, what is an auxiliary verb? An auxiliary is a helping verb. Now you know what a verb is. A verb is any, you can say, word which is a part of speech which indicates action. So any word which shows you what action is or what someone is doing is denoted by a particular word, then that particular word is a verb. Now there are certain words which help these verbs, and these words are called as an auxiliary. Now under auxiliary also you have different kinds of auxiliary verbs. That one is the modal auxiliary, which we are going to talk about today. So a modal auxiliary is a helper verb that helps the main verb express some meaning like ability, possibility, obligation, etc. So what kind of work does the modal auxiliary have? It of course helps, but what kind of help does it give to our main verb? It helps the main verb to express some meaning like ability. Ability means what? I can do something, that is my ability. I cannot do something, that is my inability, isn't it? So these modal auxiliary verbs, it helps the main verb to show some kind of ability, even possibility. Possibility, it might rain today is a possibility. Okay, and also obligation. Obligation means something which you must do, something which is your duty. So these are all the things which a modal auxiliary verb aims to do. Okay, it aims to help the main verb to express some meaning. Now one very important thing is that modal auxiliaries or modals, they do not change their form. That is, a modal auxiliary, for example, can is a modal auxiliary. It does not become cans, okay? And must is a modal auxiliary. It does not become musts ever in a sentence. So it does not change according to the number or the person of the subject. So it doesn't have anything to do with the subject. Alright? So modal auxiliaries, they do not change their form according to the number or the person of the subject. So these are some important things that you should learn or you should know about auxiliary verbs, or in fact you should know about modal auxiliary verbs. Okay, Now we will go on and we will take a look at a broad picture. You will get to see a broad picture about what are the different types of verbs. Okay, this is just for your clarification. So we have a concept called as verbs, which I just explained to you right now. So what are verbs? Verbs are those words which indicate action in a sentence. Okay. Now these verbs can again be divided as main verbs, or we also call them as lexical verbs. The main verbs. Okay. Now which are the main verbs? Words like, you can say, eat, words like sit, words like run, all these show action, isn't it, in a sentence? It shows what the subject is doing. So all these words, along with many other words like sleep, okay, walk, sing, laugh, smile, all these words, they show action. So they are main verbs or lexical verbs. Now coming to auxiliary verbs. The second type of verb is auxiliary verbs. And under auxiliary verbs, children, we have these three different types. The first one is the primary auxiliary verb. Now what are auxiliary verbs? See, am is an auxiliary verb. Okay. Then you have is, which is an auxiliary verb. And then you have the word are, which is an auxiliary verb. So these are all the auxiliary verbs. Now when we talk about auxiliary verbs, children, again there are three types. One is the primary auxiliary verb. So what is a primary auxiliary verb? Words like be, have, okay, do, all these words are the primary auxiliary verbs. Primary means they occur very often in a sentence. Primary auxiliary verbs are seen very often in a sentence, or they very commonly occur in a sentence. That is why they are called as primary auxiliary verbs. Okay, and then you have the modal auxiliary verbs, the ones which we are going to talk about today. All right, and then we also have the marginal auxiliary verbs. Now marginal auxiliary verbs are also called as semi-modals. Semi, that is, they are sometimes used in a sentence, sometimes they are not, and they do not share all the properties of the other modal verbs. That is, they are called as marginal. Marginal means sometimes yes and sometimes no. Okay, as far as this verb is concerned. Okay, now which are the marginal modal auxiliaries? See, words like dare, ought to, used to, these are the marginals. Okay, so we are not going to focus much on primary auxiliary verbs. We are going to talk mainly about the modal auxiliary verbs. But this was just an overview for you about what the meaning of auxiliary verbs are and where do they stand as far as verbs are concerned. So now you have a greater picture, you have a bigger picture of what are verbs and what are the different types of verbs as well. Alright, so with this we will now move on and we will focus on the topic for today, that is, we will talk more about modal auxiliary verbs. So, or we simply call them as modal verbs. So modal verbs are a special kind of helping verb. Special kind. Okay. Now what does it do? A modal verb helps the main verb to express the mood of the subject. Okay. Along with the action, we also try to express the mood of the subject now. And the same time it can indicate possibility, persuasion, ability, willingness, etc. So these are all the kind of moods that can be expressed making use of these modal verbs. And one more thing I would like you to focus is on the spelling and the pronunciation of this particular word. Some people say modal verbs. It is wrong. Okay, the pronunciation is modal. See, look at the spelling. It is M-O-D-A-L. It is not M-O-D-E-L to call it modal. Okay, it is modal verbs. Alright, so what are modal verbs? They are special kind of helping verb which help to express the mood of the subject, and the mood could be possibility, persuasion, ability, willingness, etc. Let's take a look at all the examples or many examples of modal verbs. you have the word can, will, may, must, could, would, might, should. All these are words which are modal auxiliary verbs. Okay, and all of these express different kind of moods or different kind of, you can say, some things like possibility, ability, obligation, etc. In fact, you can say it expresses different kinds of mood of the subject. Okay, so these are modal verbs. Now we take a look at some of them and we try and understand what and how the moods are expressed. So see, when I say we can play football, so when I'm saying we can, it means what am I doing? I am expressing my ability to play football. That is, I have to find legs, okay, and I know about the game. So we can play football, ability. Now, we could play football will show again the ability that I could play football, okay. We may play football, may. Now here may indicates possibility. That is, we want to play football. Now it depends on whether there is a ground available. If there is a ground available, then we may play football. So that is a possibility. We might play football is again a possibility. Now when I show you a chart, you will see that may and might and all are have got different percentages of possibilities. Okay. Then when I say we must play football, it means what? That it has become a kind of compulsion for us. Compulsion. When I say must, it means a compulsion. Or you can also say an obligation. That is, we must play football because we have to prove ourselves. Maybe my school or my college has got the best football team, so we must play football. Now we mustn't play football. You will see that mustn't has got the word not in it. So we must not. For example, now due to the period of COVID, we must not form a crowd. Okay, now mustn't is a short form for must not. So it is a prohibition. You are not allowed to form crowds. So in the same way here, we mustn't play football means we are not allowed to play football. We ought to play football. Ought, again, here is a duty. Okay, we ought to pay our taxes on time. We ought to follow all the rules of the land or of the country. So this is a duty on our part. We ought to take care of our parents. It's a duty. Okay, we shall play football. We shall is an intention. That is, I intend, I want to, I have the intention of playing football. We should play football means it is a necessity that if we don't play football, I might not, you can say, clear my final year. So if I'm studying in a sports quota, if I have got admission through sports quota, then I should play football. It's a necessity for me. We will play football means it is a desire on our part that I want to play. It is a will. Will means it is a kind of, we say, a nirnaya on our part that we will play football. And again, we would play football could mean it is a habit of the past. When we were in college, we would play football. Or when we were in school, we would play football. So we would means we used to play football in the past. So you can see how all these words, the ones which are in dark color black letters, that is can, could, may, might, must, then you have mustn't, ought to, shall, should, will, would. Okay, you have many others also. If you check, you might see there are many others also, but these are the main ones. Okay, there are ones like dare also, needn't also, have to also. Alright, all these together, they come under the umbrella of modal auxiliaries or modal verbs. Alright, and you saw how it expresses the different moods of the subject. So sometimes the subject wants to show ability, sometimes the subject wants to show possibility, sometimes compulsion, sometimes duty. So this is how the mood of the subject is reflected by making use of these modal verbs. Alright, so that was about the meaning and one example. Now let us take one more look at the different modal auxiliaries in this way. So can is one of the most important of modal auxiliaries. So can shows ability, permission and probability. So look at the example sentences, you will understand it better. For ability, when I say I can speak English, Spanish, it means I know Spanish and I have the ability to speak it. Permission, can I go to the bathroom? So I want to use the bathroom, so I'm not directly walking into the bathroom because it belongs to someone else. So I'm asking for permission. If I am in my own home, I will not ask for permission to go to the bathroom. Then you have probability. It can't be Mark. He is in London. That means the person whom you have seen can't be Mark. Why? Because according to me, he is in London. Then we have could. Again, could shows past ability. He could swim when he was 6 years old. Could shows past permission. He could go to the theatre. Then probability, that is 40%. It could get much hotter in July. So 40% it could get hotter, 60% it couldn't get hotter. That is, it will be the same. Request, I could lend you my notebook. Okay, so these are how the words could can be used. Now this is only for your reference, children. There is no need for you to remember all this 40% and 20% and 35% to the T. Okay, then you have the word may. Now may shows 50% probability. Could shows 40% probability. When you say may, it means it is more probable. It may snow tomorrow. So there is a 50% probability that it will snow. Permission. May I come in? So this is something which we always use in class, isn't it? When you go step out of your classroom for something and you want to enter your class, you ask your teacher, may I come in? So that is, you're seeking permission to come into your classroom. Then you have might. Now very less probability. It might rain today. Might. So there is a big chance that it might not rain. There will be no rain. But there's a 35% chance that it will rain. Then you have the word must. Now here must, when it is used in negative, it could be a prohibition or it could be a 100% probability. That is, it could be a certainty. When I am 100% sure that something is going to happen, means I am certain that something is going to happen. Okay, so probability, it is quite dark. It must be after 8 o'clock. So now we know how the place outside looks. So if it is very dark, it should be after 8 o'clock. Must. And then you have should. It is an advice. You shouldn't smoke. It is unhealthy. Okay, shouldn't here means should not smoke. Alright, and finally we have will. Will is a kind of a prediction, or will is also kind of a spontaneous decision. You took a decision on the spot. For example, for prediction you will say, I think he will study harder this time. Okay, I think, it's a prediction because last time he failed or last time he did not get very good marks. So he will study harder this time. Whereas a spontaneous decision means it's very hot. Suddenly you start feeling hot and I'll open the window. I will open the window. It's a short form. I'll is a short form for I will. So you started feeling hot and you took a immediate decision that you're going to open the window. Okay, so these are all the different kinds of modal auxiliaries and their uses and some examples. Okay, so this was all about modal auxiliaries. I'm sure you must have got quite a bit of an idea about what are modal auxiliaries and what is their role in a sentence. Okay, now we will move on to our scholarship question pattern, and let's take a look at the various kind of questions which could be asked based on this particular topic. So the first one, choose the correct modal auxiliaries to fill in the blanks. You have to just make a choice of which modal auxiliary will fit into the sentence. The second pattern wants you to choose the 2 correct options for each sentence. So here in this case, you will circle or you will darken 2 circles here. only then your answer will be considered correct, because you have to select 2 correct options. And then you have choose the correct sentence, which means the same as the given sentence. So there will be one sentence which will be given in the question, and there will be 4 other sentences which are given below it. You have to select the sentence which matches with the sentence in the question. The meaning of that sentence and the sentence in the question should be the same. And finally, in the last pattern, you have choose the correct option to replace the underlined parts in the sentence. So a particular part of the sentence will be underlined. You have to find an option which will replace that particular underlined part. Okay, so now as we always do when we see the examples, the idea will be clearer to you. Okay, so let us move on and do at least 4 or 5 examples from each pattern. So starting with pattern 1, you have the question, choose the correct modal auxiliaries to fill in the blanks. And here comes your first question. You dash obey the laws of the land. So is it you would obey the laws of the land, you shall obey the laws of the land, you must obey the laws of the land, or you again should obey the laws of the land? So what is the correct answer here? What should be the right answer? It should be you must obey the laws of the land. So it is not a choice that we have. So must here is used as an compulsion. You have to. There is no other choice. If you do not obey the law, you will go to jail. Okay, so you must obey the laws of the land. So option number 3 is the right answer. Coming to the next question, question number 2. Ravi dash run around the garden every morning when he was small. So Ravi would run around the garden, Ravi shall run around the garden, Ravi must run around the garden, or Ravi should run around the garden. So which do you think will be the correct word which will fit into the blank? So it will be Ravi 1 would run around the garden every morning when he was small. So we are talking about Ravi when he was small. So we are talking actually about a past habit which Ravi has. Coming to the next one. It is the third question. Mobile phones dash send messages. Mobile phones would send messages. Mobile phones shall send messages. Mobile phones must send messages, or mobile phones can send messages. So what do you think will be the correct option? Is it 1, 2, 3 or 4? It is the 4th one. Mobile phones can send messages means mobile phones have the ability to send messages. Okay, coming to the next one. Children dash obey their parents. Children would obey their parents. Children shall obey their parents. Children must obey their parents, or children should obey their parents. What do you think the right one is? As much as we want to think that it could be must, but the answer is should. Why? Because when we say, it becomes a compulsion. If you don't do it, you might be punished also. But here we are saying children should obey their parents because we are giving it as a kind of an advice. Okay, it is a moral duty to obey our parents. Coming to the last question in this pattern, dash I eat this last piece of cake? So, should I eat this last piece of cake? May I eat this last piece of cake? Must I eat this last piece of cake, or will I eat this last piece of cake? So it is the second one, may I eat this last piece of cake? And it is what? It is permission. You're seeking permission to ask whether you can eat the last piece of cake. Now children, all these questions you can take them in reverse also. Okay. For example, the word permission will be given to you along with the question. So when I say dash I eat this last piece of cake, and you can also see that you have to frame a question keeping permission in mind. So you select may. Alright, but I wanted to complicate this a little bit for you. That is why we went in the reverse order. Okay, so this was question pattern number 1. Let's move on to question pattern number 2. So you have the pattern, choose the 2 correct options for each sentence. So you have to be extra careful here. You have to color 2 circles, okay? Otherwise, if you just do one of them, your answer will be marked as wrong. So let's see the question. I dash eat 1 ice cream per day when I was small. Okay? So I dash eat 1 ice cream when I was small. So you're talking about the past. So they want you to pick up words, 2 words specifically, which will indicate your past habit. So let's take a look at the options. So I could eat 1 ice cream, I would eat 1 ice cream, I must eat 1 ice cream, or I used to eat 1 ice cream. So which one will be the correct one, children? Which 2 will be the right answers? It will be, yes, option number 2. I would eat 1 ice cream per day when I was small, and I used to eat 1 ice cream per day when I was small. So option number 2 and option number 4 are the correct ones. Okay, so this is how you have to select 2 correct options. Coming to the next question here, I go for the football practice now. Now you want permission to go for football practice. So which 2 words will you use? Will you say, would I go? Will you say, may I go? Will you say, can I go? Or should I go? So which 2 words will you use to ask for permission to go for football practice? Will it be 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, or which one of the combinations? Let's check out. So it will be the second one, that is, may I go for the football practice now? Or it could also be the third one, can I go for the football practice now? So we saw that can be used for permission as well as for ability here then. Okay, so coming to the next question, you have question number 8. It dash rain this evening. Here we are going to talk about possibility, okay, because it is not the rainy season, but it looks like it is going to rain. So we are going to talk about possibility here. So let's see which are the modal auxiliaries. May, would, might, used to. So which 2 words will fit in correctly here in this blank? It will be the first one, may. It may rain this evening. That means it is showing a possibility. If I say the third one, it might rain this evening, that also will be correct because that also shows a possibility. So your correct answers are answer number 1 and answer number 3. Moving on to the 9th question. Your friends dash be honest. Now here it is an obligation, that is, there is something which is not a choice as far as your friends are concerned. So it is a quality that you feel is not an option, it is an obligation in your friends. So your friends could be honest, your friends ought to be honest, your friends must be honest, or used to honest. So which one is the correct one? It's an obligation. Remember, this quality of honesty is an obligation here. So you say your friend, option number 2, ought to be honest, and option number 3, must be honest. So there is no choice. If you want to make someone your friend, that person must be honest. Okay? Coming to the last question in this pattern, you dash go for a movie after you finish your homework. Here again we are talking about permission. So let's take a look at the modal auxiliaries and let's see which one will fit in. You can go for a movie, you could go for a movie, you must go for a movie, you may go for a movie. So you can say you can go for a movie after you finish your homework, or you can also use the word may. You may go for a movie after you finish your homework. So this, when we say may, when we say can, we are talking about permission. So these were the 2 patterns, children. The first one was choose the correct modal auxiliary to fill in the blanks according to the type given in the brackets. Okay, and I've dropped that type given in the bracket. Then we come to the second one, choose the 2 correct options for each sentence according to the type given in the bracket. So given in the bracket, you have permission here. Alright. Now let us move on to question pattern number 3. Choose the correct sentence which means the same as the sentence given below. That is given, which is going to appear now for you. So here you have the sentence. It is possible that the pool is shut now. So here we are talking about a possibility. Okay. So which one of these sentences will be right? If you want to replace this sentence, which one would be correct? The pool might be shut now. The pool will be shut now. The pool should be shut now. Or the pool is shut now. So it is the, yes, first one, might. Because when we are talking about possibility, might is a word which comes to your head first. So the pool might be shut now is a replacement for the sentence. It is possible that the pool is shut now. Okay, moving on to the next example, example number 12. It is advisable for children to listen to their parents. So we are giving an advice here. Children must obey their parents. Children should obey their parents. Children may obey their parents. So that's an option. And children can obey their parents. That is also a possibility. Okay. So let's see which one is the correct one. When we are advising someone, we say should. So children should obey their parents. Okay. Moving on to the next example. Do I have your permission to borrow an umbrella? So we are talking about a word which indicates permission. Okay. So will it be, should I borrow your umbrella? Would I borrow your umbrella? Will I borrow your umbrella? Or may I borrow your umbrella? So what do you think is the right one? Yes, when you have permission, you say may. Or we also say can, but here there is no can, so we will go with the may. Alright, coming to the last example in this pattern. I want to stop eating junk food to be healthy. So I can stop eating junk food to be healthy. Alright, I could stop eating junk food. Now this is a will that you have. You wish to become healthy. So which word should you use? I should stop eating junk food to remain healthy. I must stop eating junk food to remain healthy. So which one will be the correct one? It will be the third one. I should. You're telling yourself, I want to become healthy. But for that, I should first stop eating junk food. Okay. Now we come to the last pattern that we have for today, where we choose the correct option to replace the underlined parts in the sentence. So you have a sentence and you have certain words or a part of the sentence which is underlined. So you have to find a phrase which you can use in order to replace this particular group of words or a phrase. Okay. So see, this is the question. It is essential for you to be back home before midnight. It is essential for you. Remember, we are not giving a choice here. So will you write you should be back home before midnight? Will you write you must be back home before midnight? Will you write you will be back home before midnight? Or will you write you will be back home before midnight? So it is essential means it is a compulsion. Okay, there is no choice for you. So the answer will be option number 2. You must be back home before midnight. This is essential. There is no argument on it. Alright. So we replaced it is essential for you with you must. Okay. So this is how you solve this kind of a question. Coming to one more example. A few more examples here. It is possible that the road has reopened by now. So again, we are talking about possibility. So think about which phrase can replace this particular phrase. It is possible that the road has. So what will you write instead of it? So will you write the road might have reopened by now? Will you write the road will have reopened by now? the road should have reopened by now, or the road must have reopened by now. So which do you think is the right answer? Yes, it is the first one. When I say possibility, immediately the two modal verbs which should come to your head is can and might. And we have might here, so we go with might. Alright, coming to the second last question in this particular video. I am determined to sell everything I have to get my home back. So I am determined to sell. So we are talking about determination here. Okay, you have taken a one kind of, you can say, decision that you're going to sell everything to get your home back. So which phrase would indicate determination? I would sell, I might sell, I can sell, or I shall sell. So which one of these phrases show your determination? So yes, it is option number 4. I shall sell everything I have to get my home back. So you have made up your mind that you're going to sell everything that you have to get your home back. Okay, so it is option number 4. Coming to the last question here in this particular video. He was known to work quite hard earlier. Once upon a time, he was known to work quite hard. Now, we don't know whether he still works hard, or he stopped working hard, but we have to find out a phrase which will replace he was known. So will it be he might work quite hard, he used to work quite hard, he could work quite hard, or he should work quite hard? So it is the second one, he used to work quite hard earlier. So once upon a time, he used to work very hard. Okay, children, so this is as much as we could do to cover the topic modal auxiliaries. We started with trying to understand the meaning of the word, or the definition of the word modal auxiliaries. We also took a look at the various kind of verbs that could be. So we have the main verb, and we have the auxiliary verbs, and then we have the primary, okay, and then we have the modal auxiliaries, we have the marginal auxiliaries, and then we talked about the various examples and how these modal auxiliaries can be used. For example, when you say can, it could mean permission, it could mean ability. When I say could, it could mean permission. When I say may, it could mean permission. When I say may, it could also mean possibility. Okay, might also could mean possibility. Shall will mean ability or determination. Okay, we talked about all the different ways in which these modal auxiliary words can be used in sentences. And we talked about 4 different patterns which could be asked in our scholarship question paper. So children, that was all for today. Now what is your duty? You must, okay, obligation. It is a compulsion. You must watch the video till the end, and it is an advice that you should solve the questions given below, because if you solve the questions, you will get more knowledge. And finally, you should also like the video. Okay, so you please should like the video, and then you should also understand what all things I've tried to explain in the video and write well in your paper. So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So, these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.